Okay, I had to take a little break. I am watching Surviving Mormonism with Heather Gray. And you know, when I started it, I didn't realize it was going to be so fucking triggering. Hold on, I gotta cleanse the energy. Whew. Holy fuck. You know, this Earth Angel Project, I don't know why, especially on weekends it happens. I cover a lot about what's going on in the Mormon church and kind of come to grips with, you know, being raised in it. And got snoring poncho over here. Ooh. And so when I, you know, and she is part of the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, and I don't really like those shows anymore. I kind of liked them in the beginning. I liked her from the beginning. I thought she was more authentic, and I related to her because I remember when she was with her young daughters, and she was a divorced mom in the church, and I could relate to her because I felt like, I mean, that's how I was in my mid-20s when I hadn't gotten married. I hadn't served a mission. I was independent, living on my own, and there was no place for me in the church, you know. And it was just like this really weird divorce that I went through with the church. When I realized that it wasn't true, and I found out that Joseph Smith was a Mason, and that the rituals that were done in the church weren't even original. They were Masonic. And that I didn't even touch on my abuse of telling my bishop about being sexually abused by my uncle when I was a teenager, and it never being reported. I mean, it didn't. So when this show came on, now I've been talking about a lot of sexual abuse in the Mormon church and stuff, and it's through a lot of podcasts, and it's kind of helped me come to terms with what happened to me. And how it's never been addressed or even acknowledged. But it's been kind of hard to talk about on the Earth Angel Project, you know. And so I started. I actually posted yesterday. I think I vlogged about it yesterday. Alyssa, who is a Exmo podcaster that I love, who'd recently been in the Wall Street Journal, I believe, also for her podcast, and she has a lot of great stuff. She doesn't talk about the sex abuse as often, but she talks about all the other stuff culturally, how you know, go through this. And so I thought it was going to be Surviving Mormonism was going to be more of like the Housewives reality show type, you know, Mormon. They have their mom talk and the swingers sex scandals and all that stupid shit. And that's why I was kind of like, I really don't fucking care about that. Because I see how fucking fake it is. And it wasn't. I really want to thank Heather Gray for speaking up, and the courage it took to. I mean, it makes me so happy that I know it doesn't look like it. But it makes me happy that she's utilizing her platform to tell the truth. I'm really, really grateful to her. You know, I'm trying to do it on my stupid little Facebook page. And just in case the evil cabal is watching, I'm trying to expose the church in my little corner of the world with my own little experience. But she, you know, this is the biggest platform that I've seen it on. And just when I thought the Real Housewives franchise was a waste of space, turns out there is good that can come from those platforms too, and I'm so grateful that she is using it to share that part of share that. It's so hard for people to understand. And so I originally thought it was just going to be more about how constricting it is, and the first episode was really hard too. It was on the gay conversion therapy and stuff like that, and how the church, I have a nephew that's transgender that went through a really hard time. Still, his mother goes to the church, and he still supports her and goes to the church, and at this point doesn't even talk to me anymore, but I will always, always, always support his right to be who he is. And I remember not that long ago, about 5 years back, getting a call from him out of the blue and just saying, "You saved my life," when I was a teen, because I wanted to kill myself because of the church and because of my family, and you were the only one in the family that just wouldn't allow. He called me the day Trump got elected. I remember that night we cried on the phone together. It sounds silly, but I cursed out his dad and his mom, my brother-in-law. I was like, "How dare you fuckers vote for a piece of shit predator that's gonna do everything in his power to take away your son's rights." So that part was touched my soul. But the next one she goes into, so it's 3 episodes, and I had to stop it at the 2nd episode. And she interviews her best friend's husband, who was a member of the church. She talks about lineages and bloodlines and things like that, which I tell you is a big deal in the church. But he goes on and he tells this story about when his sexual abuse started at the church. And so I know people, if anyone's paying attention to what I've been posting, it sounds fantastical, it sounds crazy. But he tells his story, which sounds like ritualistic sexual abuse. Where they would actually wear like their temple clothing, and they would rape young girls. And he told his bishop, and he told his dad, and they said that was the reason that he was gay. And he had to go through a disciplinary action, and they never called that man. They never held him fucking accountable. They didn't call the cops or anything. And then finally, he sees in the newspaper, after he finally just surrendered to being himself and leaving the fucking church, thank God. Peace. Oh, it just makes me so fucking angry. How many lives? And he sees in the paper, Jesus, fucker, Hurtado, Latino. Ugh. He sees that another person had actually filed a civil suit against him and won against him and the church. And I cannot wait to even look into that one. How the church paid her off to shut up because she told 2 of her bishops. It was the same fucking cunt that had done this to this young man. Yet he was sent to gay conversion therapy. Yet he was the one that went through the disciplinary council. It's so fucked up. And then they finally finally excommunicated, and he still goes to their church. He's still in the same stake as his parents. Like, it's so fucked up how this church protects pedophiles. And I'm so grateful that, you know, it's not just podcasts or things that, I mean, that they're actually sharing this. I'm really grateful that she is using this platform, her platform, to speak up about this shit. I wish there were more people like her that would tell the truth. And so, yeah, that was really hard to listen to, because it was so close to what I've been telling and saying on my Earth Angel project. It was just crazy that even some of the cases that I've brought up in this project are being featured on this program, and it's mainstream, and I'm so grateful for that. And I hope, I pray that people will watch it. It's disgusting how ill-prepared these bishops are to handle these things, and how they're told to call the bishop's hotline, and it's a hotline to the church's attorneys, and how there's, I mean, if you even look at the checklist, the first questions have anything to do with the fucking victims. It's about, is it about sexual abuse, and did it happen at the church? Did it happen during a church activity? Are they members of the church? Like, it's really fucked up how the church just only gives a shit about protecting its name. And they have allowed, there was one bishop that went viral not too long ago. I want to check his out that she's interviewing, and it's on the next episode, but I had to take a break because I was just like, this is good therapy. I'm washing the windows to my soul. Who had the courage to speak up during sacrament meeting and basically resign from being a bishop and resign from being the church because he couldn't, he had the courage to say that this isn't right. And he talks about, you know, 17, like 2 days into his bishopric, and these are guys that are just good at their jobs, and they pay their tithing, and they're decent men, and they're called to be the leaders of this group, and they have to deal with crimes and sexual abuse and domestic violence, and they're not fucking therapists. And if they have questions, then they call this hotline. That's about it. That are attorneys that are on 24/7 just to support the church, just to look out for the best interest of the church. Fuckers. And he talked about how a 17-year-old came in and she felt so bad, and she had just told him how she had sex the night before, and she felt so guilty because you don't understand. You think Catholics have they don't have, or Jews or whoever, they do not have the guilt cornered. It is fucking the fucking Mormons, man. And he was just a little thrown off by it, and she said, well, don't you want to know the details? And he said, what do you mean? It's like, well, my other bishop wanted to know if he orgasmed or if I orgasmed, or how many times that we had sex, and did we do this before? And it was just like, he's like, no, I don't want to know these details. And Heather, the hostess, or the narrator, you know, the person that's leading this, talks about how her bishop, who was her dad's best friend, would have spiritual inclinations and pull her into his office alone with her, 50-year-old man, asking her, you know, I just have a feeling you've been masturbating, haven't you? At 15. Like, how fucking disgusting is that? And it reminded me of Stacy Lee, the podcaster that I love. She has her cool podcast, and it's usually about crimes and cults and stuff like that, but you've been listening to her for a few years. She does a lot around Utah, and she came from a pretty strict Mormon family, and she wouldn't talk that much. She just said she was not a member of the church anymore, and she finally did one episode, and I cried with her when I listened to it. And she talks about her interview with a disgusting piece of shit stake member that hated her dad and was jacking off under the table, under the desk, while he made her explain every fucking, literally fucking thing that she had been doing. It's disgusting. I'm not saying all bishops are like that. I'm not saying all state presidents are like that, but oh, it's just so fucking gross. I'm so glad, I'm so proud of these women for being brave enough to speak up and speak out about it. But it's heartbreaking. You know, as I've been listening to these stories, like how they've really protected, you know, like this guy, this gay guy who's now happy and not a member of the church, thank God. How they chose the predator over him because he was a straight man that had a family. And that man continued to abuse people for years afterwards. And even after he went to his dad and said, see, I told you he was doing this shit, you know, showed the, the bishop also said, you know, even after he told his father, they went to the stake president and said, you know, why don't you take this to the police? And they wouldn't take it to the police still. But they did finally excommunicate him. However, he still goes to their church. That's the thing about excommunication. They'll still allow them as long as they continue to try and repent, and they won't tell anyone about, you know, they'll let him. I think in excommunication, he can't take the sacrament, he can't hold callings, but he's still embraced. Not the gay kid, not the trans kid, but the pedophile. No wonder maggots. No wonder most of them are maggots. It's fucking disgusting. Fucking disgusting. And, oh, I'm telling you, I'm like tense from watching it. I had to take a few breaks. I didn't realize it was going to make me so fucking emotional. But it's good. And it's amazing how the universe works. That, you know, I've been working through this and telling this story and even my story about it. And for this show to come up, and I wasn't going to watch it. I have been off of Netflix. I've been off of, I think, I borrowed my brother's Hulu account. Every once in a while I'll watch something on that. But I got a free Peacock account, and I wanted to watch How to Train Your Dragon. I got it because I order my groceries through Walmart Plus, and I only do that because I don't have a car and I have to have my groceries delivered to me, and it's cheap. As soon as I get a car, I'm cutting out all those subscriptions, but everything happens for a reason. And I got my free Peacock, and I watched How to Train Your Dragon. I've been wanting to see that one. I saw it last weekend and I loved it. And then yesterday I posted the Surviving Mormonism podcast that Alyssa, where she's interviewing her. And I even said I hadn't seen it yet, but I was very intrigued by what they had talked about. And so tonight, when I didn't do anything today, and I said I was gonna, I worked on the project a lot today. It covered some really heavy stuff from the spiritual aspect that I posted earlier, my Sunday school lessons. And God, if there's more confirmation, oh my God. And she said something about Joseph Smith. I already think he's a piece of shit. I've already said that to anyone that'll listen, but You know, they paint him as this martyr who was tarred and feathered and prosecuted. You know why he was tarred and feathered? Motherfucker, he was tarred and feathered by two brothers who were pissed off because he had been raping or sleeping with, excuse me, that's what you maggots say, right? R. Kelly. Sleeping with their 14-year-old sister. He was married, but he was sleeping with their 14-year-old sister. You know that's why polygamy came. He got caught sleeping with the 14-year-old adopted foster child that they had in the house, and had convinced her that they were secretly married. And now that it was public, he made it, oh, well, let's just make this legal in my church that I made up. It's so fucking vile. This is why every day I believe more and more in this Earth Angel Project, that there is no possible way that a God would allow cunts like that to do shit like this. Not a good God. Not a good God. Their God is a money God that only cares, doesn't give a fuck about their victims, and only cares about their fucking money and their temples and their resources to baptize, whether you like it or not, your family and your family's family, to be committed to this demigod that they worship in their fucking temples. It's disgusting. It's fucking disgusting. So there's a lot of emotions I'm going through right now. And I just had to record this for a little. And again, I never would have thought that someone from the Real Housewives franchise would ever be a part of this. I thought almost all influencers were cunts like the Kardashians, and apparently they're not. I'm grateful that she is actually using her platform. And I'm telling you, I know because I experience it. Talking out about the church, especially in Utah, it is not for the weak. It's a very lonely journey. And I love that she shared at one point, and I've been there too, you know, where you don't want to hear the stories. You don't want to hear. Like when my friend Kimmy was telling me about how bad her abuse was, that she had to go to the doctors and they had to mend her anal. Because as a kid, she had been so torn apart. I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to hear about it. And now the church didn't report it. And her mom just listened to the bishop. Her mom was someone that I loved and respected. I used to babysit for them. She was a single mom. And I just was like, my baby Kimmy, she's just 2 years old. When I would watch her. She told me that as an adult, and I remember just shutting down, like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. And that's kind of what Heather did. And finally, I'm at a point where I need to hear it. I need to know the truth. I think we all do. So that we don't invest in these narcissistic institutions that give zero fucks about us. And they wrote her off. Just like they wrote off that young man, you know, when she was acting out, sleeping around as a teenager. They were like, she's a wild child. We don't want her infecting all the good, holy Mormons. Never mind that they ignored when she was a kid and she was being raped anally and vaginally, that she had to get repairs done. Oh. So I'm gonna jump on to part 3. I kind of tried to take a break and jump back onto the tarot and listening to all these fuckers in the tarot where it's like the witchcraft and the evil cabal, and I'm kind of like, fuck all of them. Like, at this point, I'm just like, you stupid little bitches. This is so much more. Yeah, I had to sage and mentally prepare myself, because the next one is a really ugly cover-up. It's two sisters. I don't know. I'm wondering if it's, I wonder if she'll even tap into the satanic sexual abuse. There is a crazy case out right now, or one that's been out, with the DA Levitt, who is a fucking evil piece of shit too. And all these people are still members of the church that are active, that have been accused of some really heinous stuff. So I'm wondering, I don't know if it's that one. I hope she's brave enough, but there's so many cases that it just, I really thought we were different than the Catholic Church. I remember when the Catholic Church scandal, when Spotlight came out, you know, when it was reported, and I literally thought, like, wow, I'm glad I was raised in the church, in the Mormon church. No, maybe they don't have the bishops, although some are predators. They just, it's a perfect cesspool to protect predators like my uncle, like ward members. And you know, if you're going to violate them, make sure you keep it in the church, because their parents, they won't go to the police. They'll go to their bishop, and their bishop will call the hotline, and their hotline will tell them not to. I mean, they literally tell people not to press charges. It's so vile. And it's not because of the kids. Obviously, it's not. Oh, that was one that the bishop had said that was so gross. It was a person in his ward that his ex-wife had reached out to him and said he has raped and assaulted his own daughter, who is now an adult. And then the adult daughter sent him an email describing everything that he had done. And he said that, and of course, men like that, they just move. They move to different wards, they move to different areas. And he called the hotline, and they told him he couldn't do a fucking thing about it. That the daughter, unless the daughter was in his stewardship, which she wasn't, she was in Texas, and unless there were actual files charged, that there was nothing he could do. And he couldn't even say anything about it. So that's part of why he just left the bishopric. Like, I can't do this. We're protecting pedophiles, not people. And when you look at the Michael Jensen story, where he came home from his mission and he wasn't allowed to be in the home of his own brothers and sisters because he was assaulting them, they put them in other members' homes without telling them what this kid was capable of, that he had actually been charged and for sexual assault of a minor when he was a minor. And so in turn, he ends up, these are church members that listened to their bishop and thought they were helping out a kid with a back problem, who had returned from his mission with a back problem. No, he was being called home because of the sexual assault complaints, and they let him stay in a home with children, which he absolutely fucking molested. It's so disgusting what this church has done. And I don't know how you can say you're the only true fucking church on earth. I don't want to be a part of your fucking cult. And I certainly don't want to. I'm going to expose your nasty, disgusting piece of shit God that you and Joseph Smith and your false prophets worship. Oh, it's so disgusting. Oh, So if I needed confirmation of the work that I'm doing on this project, this was definitely it. I'm really grateful. I'm grateful that people are using their platforms as they should. You know, when you know better, you do better, and I'm grateful for Heather Gray for doing that. So I am going to move on to, my next, I don't even know if you could hear everything that I was saying, but I'm going to move on to the next episode and see if it's hopefully I can. I think I kind of grounded myself a little bit more. I'm going to say a little bit of more prayers before I jump into that next episode. And but I'm really grateful. I'm grateful for this project. I'm grateful for people that, not just Heather, but the people like the gay conversion therapist that came on the first episode was so heartbroken of how many people he led astray. And he was outed. I mean, sometimes being outed is the best thing that can happen to you. Ask any, I remember even in recovery, people saying like the best thing that ever happened to me was, come here, Pancho, was getting arrested. And I didn't feel like that when I got arrested, when I got caught drunk driving or I got caught doing this and that. But hindsight, I knew that I was never going to stop until I killed myself or killed someone. And so to me, that's divine intervention. And I think that's kind of how he felt when he got outed by, and I'm sure in the beginning he probably didn't feel that way. Oh, you violated my rights and stuff, but he wasn't living a truthful life. And now he can sit back and just say, God, look how much damage I did to so many youth. And to be able to speak up and speak out about it, and still live in a state that shuns him. And if you watch the show, and the weird thing is, now I get why I'm so surprised. Alyssa's podcast was like, Mormons are mocking this documentary. And now that I've watched it, how fucking dare you? You call yourself Christians? How can you not cry or be disgusted with what the church has done to children? Not even just to children, to adults, to anyone that isn't white and different, or anyone that isn't white and Mormon, right? And to be out there and like mocking those experiences, it just shows how shallow, and just confirmation of how not true this church is. And I can't wait till I get full custody of my daughter and I don't let her go to that church anymore. And I'm going to tell her all of this. I'm going to explain to her what the truth of that church is, even if it breaks her heart. All right, well, I'm going to close this for now. I hope you're having a good evening, and I will be back. I don't know if it's tonight, maybe tomorrow. I love you.